thought as cause, not magic. A lot of folks reach retirement and they're thinking life is finally supposed to slow down and feel easier. The alarm clock stops ringing and they have all these schedules, and then they just kind of can kick back, right? The meetings stop, the deadlines ease up, but for many people, that quiet doesn't bring the peace. It brings worry, health worries, money worries, family worries, regret over things that didn't go right in the past, fear about what might happen next, you know. It happens to all of us like that. I've talked with men who worked 30, 40 years steady as a clock, and once they stopped working, their minds didn't know how to rest. They didn't know. The body slowed down, but the thinking was still, you know, it didn't. It was still rolling. They lay in bed at night running the same loops, the thought loops. What if I get sick? What if I lose what I've saved? What if I'm not useful anymore? That kind of thinking, you know. It's not dramatic, but, you know, we get to thinking that's normal. But over time, it does something to a person. It damages you. It's like a hammer beating on you. Now, when I say thought is the cause, I don't mean like a magical thing or mystical. I'm not talking about wishing something into existence. I'm not talking about pretending hard things aren't real. Life is real. Bills are real. Aging is real. The body does change. What I mean is simpler than that. Thought sets the direction. Back in the 19th century, long before modern self-help books and all that, there were steady thinkers. There were thinkers who understood all this. They didn't talk about it in flashy ways. You know, they spoke plainly. A person's consistent thinking, it shaped their habits. Habits shape the body. And that's what we're talking about here, habits. And you get into the groove. It's like when we say we're getting into a rut, you know. And that's what we mean like with habits. Habits shape the day, and days stacked up shape a life. That's not mystical, that's practical. If a retiree wakes up every morning telling himself he's done for, that's it, I'm too old, that, you know, he's just past his prime, that his best years are behind him, what happens? What do you think happens next? He moves less, he sits more, he stops going outside, you know, he snacks more, just out of, you know, trying to get the dopamine up to feel a little better. He sleeps poorly because his mind stays restless. Now, I tell you, that's manifesting negativity. And that's the same thing. You know, manifesting is real. We knew in the Bible that Jesus said, believe and receive. And we know this. If manifesting is not real, you wouldn't have the millions of advertisements trying to capture your attention, because they're trying to manifest a sale with you. They're trying to manifest something. Man, we see so many advertisements of drugs, you know, on advertisements, they're trying to manifest you that you request that drug for it feeling good and all these things. But the dangers that come with many of these things is terrible. So, you know, it's very important we need to get our minds right. Now, because the mind will stay restless in these loops that we're talking about, over a few years, the muscles will start thinning out. The balance weakens, and a person says, see, I knew I was declining. But the decline didn't start in the muscles, it started in the mind, in the thinking. On the other hand, if the man or woman in their 60s or 70s wakes up and says, this is my second chance, I'm in intermission at the threshold, I'm not done, I'm needed, that thought pushes them to act differently. They walk, they lift something, they drink clean water with a pinch of electrolytes instead of sugary crap. Put a little Himalayan salt in your water if you don't do anything, you know. They sit in the morning sun for a few more minutes, you know. They fast once in a while to reset their appetite. They guard their sleep because they understand sleep is repair, not laziness, it's healing. Over time, that thinking builds a different body. The body keeps record over decades and decades. It records minerals lost through stress and poor diet. It records years of overwork and years of neglect. But it also records recovery. It records better habits. It responds when you stop flushing out magnesium and with constant caffeine. Caffeine is really something else. In the 19th century medicine, doctors, many said that it was terrible. You didn't want to have it. Now, when you give potassium instead of a processed food, it responds when you stop panicking and start managing. Now, thought is not magic or mystical. Hear me out. Thought is management. When I say be the project manager of your own body, that is what I mean. No one else is coming to manage it for you. Doctors can help, family can help, but day-to-day direction comes from inside your own head. If your thoughts are just scattered all over the place and fearful and panic and overdriven with emotion, your management will be scattered and fearful. If your thoughts are steady, your actions become steady. I've seen this even in small things. A person who constantly thinks, I'm too old to change, rarely changes. A person who says, I can adjust one thing this month, I will try to do my best, often really does. Maybe they start by going to bed earlier, like I said. Maybe they turn off the late night television and let the house go dark so they can produce their natural melatonin. You know, that can help work. Maybe they cut back on the constant snacking and let their system rest between meals. Maybe they choose water over darn sodas and stop washing out what little minerals they have left in their body. Small thoughts, small actions, but they stack up. Now, some older thinkers believed that thought was the seed and life was the harvest. They didn't mean that tragedy never comes. No, they mean that the direction of your inner life eventually shows up in your outer life. Now, retirees especially need to understand this. When your career ends, your identity can feel shaken a little bit. I understand that. If all your thoughts are tied to what you used to do, you'll feel like something has been taken away from you. But if your thinking shifts to mentoring, let's change, let's transition. Maybe you was swinging a sledgehammer, maybe you was framing houses, and you can't do that anymore, but let's change to mentoring, guiding, building wisdom. Then retirement becomes repositioning, not loss. You're just making a career change. Your grandchildren don't need a tired, defeated elder. They need someone steady, someone who has learned how to think clearly in hard seasons, hard situations. That steadiness begins with guarding your inner conversation. Listen to how you talk to yourself. If every ache becomes a disaster in your mind, your stress hormones will follow suit. Cortisol levels will go up. If every small improvement gets noticed and appreciated, your nervous system will relax. Faith, when it's quiet and grounded, supports that steadiness. It doesn't deny reality. It says, I'm not alone in this. I can walk through this day. The body and mind are not separate departments. They talk to each other. They talk all day long. Chronic fear tightens muscles. It disrupts sleep. Poor sleep drains the minerals. Low minerals affect mood and heart rhythm. It becomes a loop, but a calmer, directed mind can interrupt that loop. Now, it doesn't require a big dramatic change. It requires attention. Ask yourself simple, easy, just questions. What am I rehearsing or playing in my mind every day? What is this loop all about? Observe that. Is it gratitude or is it dread? Is it a big worry? Is it purpose or is it regret? Am I managing my inputs or am I letting television and headlines manage me? Am I a slave to those loops? Older generations understood something we've drifted away from. They believed that Character was built internally before it was visible externally. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They adjusted their thinking and then adjusted their work. Retirement is not the end of usefulness. Hear me out. It is the beginning of, as I said, a new direction, and chosen direction indeed. Now, chosen direction begins with chosen thought. You don't need to become a philosopher. You don't need to read thick books. You just need to pay attention to what runs through your mind and decide whether, is it building you up or quietly tearing you apart. Thought is cause, not magic. It sets direction, it shapes habit, it influences the body, it steadies the spirit. And at this stage of life, direction matters more than the speed of things. It does. You still have influence, a lot of influence. You still have weight in your family. You still have years that can be strong if you manage them well. Start inside, adjust the thinking, then let the actions follow. I don't have all of this figured out by no means, but I am still working on myself. So let's keep moving forward on this journey together. And I really appreciate you watching. Thank you.